Dridabandhanam.
Can you screen? Is the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji, we can see the
Okay.
presentation.
All right.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Good. Good. Fair enough. So you tell me when to start.
Just 2
minutes, Prabhuji.
All right. नमस्ते मिलांदस्य ज्ञानंजनश्रा क्या चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषवादी भाष्यकारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम राम। So, okay, are we on the go? Or like, should we be waiting?
People are just joining.
Okay.
Give me another 2 minutes.
So yeah, you tell me when to start. Here I am. Maybe I'm switching off the video for now. So I can hear you out. So I'm switching off the video for the timing.
Hare Krishna. Welcome all
Krishna.
devotees. Welcome all devotees for our Purushottam month Srimad Bhagavatam Sravanam. And today we are in the 10th canto, last part of 10th canto, that is 71 to 90 chapters we will be covering. And we are very fortunate to have with us today His Grace Bimala Prasad Prabhu with us. And Prabhuji is basically from Delhi, Punjabi Bagh Temple. And Prabhuji is active in 2000 onwards in ISKCON. And he's a congregational preacher. And he's the director for congregational preacher in Delhi. And he is conducting reading workshops, doctrinal challenges in ISKCON, and Upakurvan Brahmachari training programs, basic leadership programs and management courses, and temple community management programs, etc. And he's very close with His Grace Atul Krishna Prabhuji from Mayapur Institute. And with his support, he's doing all these courses, and also is the Bhakti Shastri teacher and TTC, IDC teaching. He's teaching all these courses on behalf of Mayapur Institute. And recently he started TTC in Hindi also. And he is even Pujari, and he completed Archana Diploma. And he used to conduct these Pujari courses in Bengali also, Archana Diploma course in Bengali. He's basically a master's in computer from Delhi University. So he's very multilingual preacher in Hindi, English, Bengali, and all languages he's preaching. So we are very fortunate to have with him Prabhuji today for this wonderful part of Canto 10. So on behalf of all the assembled devotees and Desh Yatra, we welcome Prabhuji by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times. All together, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, His Grace Bimala Prasad Prabhu, please take over.
Krishna. Thank you, Manibhushan Prabhu. This is a very interesting concept which devotees have come up with. And, so I was, it is worthwhile for me to let you know that Tapan Mishra Prabhu just called me up. I mean, a couple of hours ago. He sent me a message. So kind of congratulating me and encouraging me for this. So yeah, like kind of know each other. He's my teacher, one of my teachers for Bhakti Vaibhav. So I know him quite well. Yeah. So okay. So as we are proceeding and we will be finished, I mean, by the grace of Krishna, we would be finishing the 10th canto today, hopefully. This is a wonderful concept to try to finish the whole Bhagavatam like this. This is like an overview. So up till, as I understand, we have covered up till chapter number 70, which is Krishna's like daily activities. And now we are moving up ahead. So to chapter number 71, these are like small glimpses. So to encourage the devotees to read the actual text. So of course, this section of the Bhagavatam has been translated by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So let's get into it. The first chapter being Lord travels to Indraprastha. So after when Narada visits Dwarka and he sees Krishna's daily activities, and then after that, Krishna has been advised by Uddhava to go to Indraprastha, because Pandavas are arranging for a festival with of Ratsuya Yagya. So Uddhava is like being one of the like a is a friend, but is like a counsel also. So he's advising Krishna that this if the Ratsuya Yagya happens, then Yudhishthira have to kill or defeat at least the our enemies. Otherwise, he cannot do the Ratsuya Yagya. So, and then by doing that, he will also free the imprisoned kings, and then by doing so, that will glorify you because you will be instrumental for that. So Krishna knew, like Uddhava said to Krishna, that Jarasandha has to be killed. So you need to go to Indraprastha, and it is for sure that Yudhishthira is going to ask for that advice. So that happens, and then Krishna, like Narad Muni, everybody else who was there, they kind of glorify Uddhava, and then Krishna mounts his chariot, and then he goes to Indraprastha, but not alone, with all his queens. So all the 16,108 queens follow. That's like a majestic, So Krishna is going to Indraprastha, of course, modern Delhi. So I'm sitting in Delhi at present. So now Krishna is coming to Indraprastha. So, and then Krishna stays for a few months with Yudhishthira. And then there they like kind of basically Yudhishthira, as already predicted by Uddhava, Yudhishthira, he pleads to Krishna. So that how to defeat Jarasandha, because everybody else they could subdue. But when the Pandavas otherwise fought Jarasandha, they couldn't defeat Jarasandha. So then they asked for his advice. So then here, that was as we know, this is a very famous story. This part is very famous. Both Bhim, Arjun, and Krishna, all three of them, they disguised as a Brahmin, and then they went to Jarasandha's place, Magad, which is like modern day Bihar. And because Jarasandha was known to be very devoted to the Brahmins. So he goes there, and all of them go there, and then Jarasandha hosts them. Then they kind of flatter basically Jarasandha, and then they ask him to grant them a request. So, but Jarasandha became suspicious basically when he saw all three of them, and then he saw Arjuna's shoulder carrying the marks of the bowstrings, because if you continuously carry that kind of a bow like Gandiva, so it will certainly have, just like we daily put on tilak, even if we rub the tilak off, there is still markings of the tilak in the same way. So he becomes suspicious, but still because he already promised them grant their desire, he went ahead with that. At that point, Krishna was the first one who discarded his disguise of Brahmana, and he openly challenged Jarasandha for a one-to-one combat. So, but then Jarasandha refuses because he says that you ran away from the battlefield before. So it is disgraceful for me to fight with a coward like you. So Krishna being celebrated as a rancho, so Jarasandha kind of taunts Krishna, and then he also rejects Arjuna because he said that I'm looking for somebody who is equal to me, and then he finally chose Bhima, that he is a worthy opponent. And then both the parties, they go outside of the city with clubs in their hands for a fight. So then they won't be fighting inside the city, because that fight is going to be a very vicious one. So then they need space. So it can be very destructive. So we'll go outside of the city, fight. So then after fighting for some time, it becomes clear that they cannot defeat each other. They are equally matched. So then, as we know, that Krishna gives the idea to Bhima that you split Jarasandha from the middle, because that's the history of Jarasandha. He was joined by the Jara demoness like that, so he can only be killed like that. So adhering to Krishna's advice, Bhima somehow catches hold of Jarasandha. He kind of then he throws him down on the floor, and then finally he rips apart Jarasandha into two, just thus killing Jarasandha. Then Krishna, it's not that then he killed Jarasandha and that's the end of the story. Then Krishna was very particular that he enthroned Jarasandha's son as the king of the Magadha, because Jarasandha was an obstacle. So he takes care of that. And the obstacle for on the way of the Rasuya Yagya, that was removed. Then Krishna frees all the 20,800 kings. Just imagine 20,800 kings. I mean, certainly they were not like, they didn't have big empires. They were like maybe king of very small dominions. However, they're still kings. So 20,800 kings. Then Krishna frees them. Not just frees them, then he he meets them in person and also give them gifts. So you see the etiquette part. So the social etiquette. So then this is what Krishna does, but on the other hand, the kings understand that this imprisonment was an act of mercy from Krishna. That because it smashed our false pride. So then they practically fall at the feet of Krishna, praise to him, that just instruct us how, or bless us, so that we can perpetually remember your lotus feet. So Krishna indeed instructs them, blesses them, that he basically instructs them to perform their regular Vedic sacrifices and protect the subjects according to what is their dharma as a king. Then fix their minds on Krishna, and also beget progeny. That's the dharma of the Grihastha, so that they beget progeny who are Krishna conscious as far as possible, and of course personally always remain equiposed, which is labha jaya jaya. So you have to be equiposed. So that's the tapasya part. So if you do these four things, Krishna says, at the end of your life, you will surely attain me. That is the blessing. So the blessing has got strings attached to it. It's not scot-free. So then, of course, then the kings, they depart for their own kingdoms. And Krishna comes back to Indraprastha. Then Yudhishthira, in the meantime, he arranges for this qualified Brahmanas, Bhardwaj Muni, Gautam Rishi, Vasishtha Rishi, etc., so that they can act as priests of the Rasuya Yagya. He started the arrangements for the Rasuya Yagya. So as it proceeded further, the stage came when we have to decide in the Rasuya Yagya. There's a stage where you have to decide the Agra Puja. Agra Puja means the first worship. Who will be worshipped at first? So it's like that. It's like the person who is kind of leading the whole ceremony. So who should be the person? So all the gathered guests, the esteemed guests, they were like kind of consulting when Sahadev came up with the proposal that why not worship Krishna at first. So, and he argues that who can be a better personality than Krishna, so to be worshipped in the Agra Puja, in the first worship. So everybody agrees to that. They say Haribol, okay, Haribol or Jais, whatever. So and then certainly Yudhishthira, he proceeds and he happily worships Krishna because that's what they wanted to do. So then there is the foot wash. That's a very important part. Foot wash. So Charan Vandana, foot wash. Then after the foot washing ceremony, as we also see these things sometimes when we see some of the Vyas Puja ceremonies, same thing happens. So Yudhishthir took the wash water, and he sprinkles it on first on his head, then the heads of his wife, that means Draupadi, then his brothers, all the Pandavas, ministers, relatives, everyone, in that order. Everybody chants Jai Jai, and everybody bows down to Krishna to take his blessings. And from the sky, the heavens started raining flowers. It's a big ceremony. It's extraordinary. Just imagine the situation. So royal. So you can also. Okay. Then of course, let me see if I have the picture with me. Oh, there. So then, on the other hand, however, Shishupal, he was there. He was like his son of his maternal uncle. So he was there, but he couldn't tolerate Krishna's glorification, Krishna's worship. He had had enough of it. Till that, by that time, he had had enough of it. So he just stood up, and then he started criticizing everyone, all the elders, everybody. He started criticizing everybody for choosing Krishna to be worshipped first. And like he said, after all, who is this Krishna? He is somebody who's outside the Varnashram social order, spiritual order. So he's an outcast, basically. And he doesn't belong to any respectable family. He has no principle, he follows no principles of religion, no good qualities, so many things, and so many nasty things. He started speaking about Krishna. Of course, if you read the purpose and specifically the parts where Vishwanath Chakravartipad is commenting, he is saying that all these accusations on Krishna, on this foul-mouthed accusations, are actually praises. He kind of converts them into praises. You have to read the purport yourself to relish that. We encourage you to do that. So while this is going on, so because he started blaspheming like this, so then Krishna remained silent, calm, equiposed. But however, these other members of the assembly, most of them, they started running outside, covered their ears. They cannot hear this blasphemy of Krishna. That's the etiquette. If there's a blasphemy, you quickly leave that place. So, but Pandavas, they were like so angry that's one of the symptoms of bhav, stamba. So that it's like you can't move. It's just like you become like a statue. Because due to that anger, they just when they regained their composure, they just wanted to kill Shishupal. They in fact raised their weapons for that, but then Krishna stopped them, and instead he used his own Sudarshan chakra to decapitate Shishupal. Well, because the difference is like we don't know if Pandavas would have killed Shishupal, what would have been his destiny, but being killed by the Lord himself. And by doing that, Krishna like fulfilled the promise that after 3 births, so as the enemy of the Lord, as we know the story in the 3rd canto, so the curse of the Kumaras. So Shishupal finally attained liberation. Sayuji, he merged into Krishna because he was always meditating on Krishna. But of course, the mood, as we know, is not anukul, it's pratikul, which is not conducive for devotional service. So that's what happened. And when this happened, then Krishna, then after this incident, the Rasviya celebrations continued. Then Yudhishthir, he distributed gifts to all the guests, priests. Then after everything was done, then they all went to Ganges to execute the Prashchita Homa. They did the Prashchita Homa, and then went for the Avabrita Snan. First they did the Prashchita Homa, which is a purificatory. Basically, Prashchita means whatever errors that might have accidentally occurred during the course of the sacrifice, that may be, it's like to ask for forgiveness. And then they went to Ganges to do the Avabrita Snan, which is the bathing ceremony, with which the ceremony comes to a close. So all these things happening, and rituals, and then Draupadi, I mean Yudhishthir followed by Draupadi, everybody, they did their parts. In the meantime, Duryodhan, he couldn't bear because he was still there. He was silent at least when he saw Shishupal being killed like that. He was silent, but he couldn't take it. So that like Yudhishthir being glorified so much, Yudhishthir having so much prosperity, so he was burning with envy. So and he was seeing everybody praising Yudhishthir. He couldn't take it. Anyway, so the guests, in the meantime, they started departing. But then Yudhishthir was so anxious, at least to that he didn't wanted Krishna to leave. Some of the other close associates didn't want him to leave. See, because the he actually compelled them to stay in the Prasad. That's love. So and then Krishna, he kind of conceded and he stayed back. So then the normal courses day started, the normal routine. Yudhishthir attending the royal court, and like Indraprastha's royal court made constructed by Mayadana. It was not even like that's something that even Lord Indra would envy. It was so beautiful, so wonderful, so opulent. So Duryodhan was also invited in that court. So Duryodhan was burning with envy when he saw all of that. It's like it's too much for him. So this is one day this happened that Yudhishthir was sitting with Lord Krishna in the Royal Assembly Hall, and then everybody, like the assembly hall was full with all the family members, all the ministers, courtiers, even the queens. They are there. So then at the time Duryodhan entered, and he was in a very fitful mood always, because certain as we can understand, he was staying in Indraprastha. He couldn't tolerate this. So he was in a fit of rage, actually. He entered the hall, but because the hall, like it was so craftily designed by Mayadana, so there were places where it looked as if there is water. So then Duryodhan, he lifted his dhoti so that he doesn't, it doesn't get wet. But then there was no water. So, and in another place, he saw there's a solid floor, and then he stepped onto it, and he fell down into the water because it was water. So it was not solid floor. So when this happened, then Bhima, all the ladies who were there on the court, the royal princess present there, they saw this began to laugh. So although Yudhishthir tried to stop them, Krishna encouraged them to laugh, because like basically cut his pride, Duryodhan's pride. Duryodhan was thoroughly embarrassed, of course, and then he just left the assembly in a fury and in a half, and then he just couldn't take it anymore. He simply left for Hastinapur. Enough of Indraprastha. Anyway, in the meantime, while Krishna was there in Indraprastha, Shalva, the king Shalva of the Shalva province, he took that advantage. He knew that Krishna was not there in Indraprastha. He took the advantage and he attacked Dwarka while Krishna was absent. Of course, for that, there's a history to it. Shalva, because he was originally one of those kings who was defeated by Krishna during the Rukmini Swayamvar. So, because Shalva was Shishupal's friend. So, at that time, he vowed that he would rid the earth of all the Yadavas, not just Krishna, all the Yadava families. So, he will massacre them. So, with that vow, he knew that it is not possible. So, then he started worshipping, basically appropriating Lord Shiva. For 1 year, he did this tapasya, and for very extreme austerity. He won't eat anything for the whole year except a palm full of dust, just dust. A palm full of dust every day. That's what he will eat and do his tapasya. So after a year, he could finally appropriate Lord Shiva appeared before him and asked him to choose a benediction. So Shalva begged that I need a flying machine, basically an aircraft or fighter jet or something like that. So by which I can go anywhere and I can strike terror into the hearts of the demigods, demons, humans, whoever. So Lord Shiva, okay, he granted him this boon, and Lord Shiva asked Maidanav to construct that airplane for him. So that was not just an airplane, that was practically a flying iron city. So such a huge, massive aircraft it was. So then Shalva finally took that vehicle and straight went to Dwarka, where he also had a huge army. So they laid to the siege to the city. So I believe you understand what is laying siege means, which means you encircle the whole city, nothing comes in, nothing goes out. So the basic idea is to starve the Dwarka, so that after, like when you have starved the residents in frustration, they would come outside and they will fight, and possibly they will die because they have not eaten for days. So that's the plan. So he laid siege to the city. So and then, but not just that. Then he used his aeroplane. He was sitting on his aeroplane and he was bombarding the city with like tree trunks, big boulders, other missiles, like he's bombarding the whole city from the sky. And he also produced a mighty whirlwind. You understand whirlwind? So yeah, you must be experiencing that in Kuwait. I think in deserts they have got big whirlwinds. So yeah, and so then you cannot see anything, and it will take advantage of that. First, he will create that whirlwind, and nobody can see what's going on. He will come from the sky and he will bombard the city like that. So this was going on. So the Yadavas, they had enough of it, enough of Shalva, and then Pradyumna, Satyaki, all of them, they like charged Shalva. They came out of the city and then started to battle with the Shalva's forces. So Pradyumna Pradyumna destroyed all of Shalva's magic by his weapons. And in fact, he casts his own spell on Shalva as a counter. So Shalva became bewildered. So then Shalva was like, it's like the aeroplane which it lost track. So it doesn't know, it's just like wandering here and there. It's just like he must be having some mechanism by which from the sky he was tracking down where to bombard, where to attack. So he destroyed that thing. So then Shalva was totally bewildered. But then as a counter attack, one of Shalva's followers named Duman, he attacked Pradyumna and he kind of with a club, and he attacked Pradyumna on his chest, due to which Pradyumna fell unconscious. So when Pradyumna's charioteers saw that my master is unconscious, he took them outside the battlefield to save his life. But then after some while, Pradyumna regained his consciousness, and then he was very angry at his charioteer that like they will think that I have fled the battlefield. So then he came back to the battlefield after, and then although he was extremely ashamed, but then he was very angry as well. So then he Pradyumna started with Duman because he made him unconscious, so he attacked Duman again. And then the other Yadava heroes, they again like attacked Shalva's army with renewed gusto. So it's like the battle raged on for 27 days and nights, not just days. 24-hour battle. You see, no days, no nights. So in the meantime, Krishna returned from Indraprastha. So from outside, he saw that like the city is under siege. It's encircled by Shalva's army, and then like they're fighting, and Shalva is bombarding. He saw all of that from a distance. So then Krishna immediately rushed to the battlefield direct, rather than trying to go into the city. He entered the battlefield. So Daruka, like his charioteer, he took them there, and suddenly Shalva noticed that Krishna has arrived. So then he attacked Krishna with his spear, and Krishna shattered all his weapons to pieces. And this vehicle, this aeroplane, this was known as the city, flying city. It was known as Shobha. It's like the name was Shobha, which is actually it's an oxymoron actually. So he's doing an inauspicious task of attacking the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his city, and the name is Shobha. That's interesting. Anyway, so then, Shalva then this happened. Shalva counterattacked Krishna, and he shot an arrow that stuck Krishna's left arm, and Krishna's Sharanga bow, which he is like holding with his left hand, it slipped. That's a big one. That's a big one. Like you managed to kind of hit the Supreme Personality of Godhead and made him to drop his bow. It's a big achievement, huge achievement. And the same other thing that reminds me of another incident when
Varahamurti Prabhu?
Yeah, no, the demon, Hiranyaksha.
Hiranyaksha.
Yeah, Hiranyaksha. Hiranyaksha. It's like when Hiranyaksha hit Varaha and made him to drop his this club. So the same reaction came from this the demigods. At that time also the demigods were very afraid. They got scared. They never seen such a thing. So in this case also, they started crying. Alas, alas, what happened? So, and when the bow fell down from Krishna's hand, slipped from Krishna's hands, so Shalva started insulting Krishna. You are a coward. It's like that's what happens during the battle. This is deliberate, of course. Both sides insult each other to get the better of each other. Because if you become angry, then you will lose composure. Then you can be easily defeated. So that's deliberate actually. So you'll see everybody insulting everyone else, so that to make them angry, and so that in a fit of rage, they commit a mistake, and that's the end of it. Anyway, so suddenly Krishna he struck Shalva with his club, because now the bow fell down. Krishna took his Kaumudiki club and he struck Shalva, and like he started vomiting blood, but then he disappeared to save his life. And a moment later, then Shalva did his, that was now Shalva's turn, it was his trick. He came before, a man came before Krishna, and he introduced him as a messenger from Mother Devaki. Man informed Krishna that Devaki Vasudeva has been kidnapped by Shalva. So, and upon hearing this, Krishna seemed to lament like an ordinary person. It's like, it's nothing like a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Shalva came forward, and he brought in Vasudeva, and he decapitated him, and took his head, severed head, and left on with his Sauba airship. It's like, yeah, he went off in the air. So the whole thing, like, okay, Vasudeva has been killed. But then Krishna, after a while, when he like kind of regained his composure, he figured out this is all magic trick. Nothing happened. This is not Vasudeva. It's somebody who looked similar to Vasudeva. So then he became extremely angry, and then there was a hail of arrows. He started showering on Shalva and Shalva's airplane, so much, and then he also threw his club at this airplane, which actually demolished the airplane. He came down, the airplane came down. So it crashed, in fact. But then Shalva came out of this airplane, and he charged towards Krishna to attack Krishna. But then Krishna had enough of Shalva. So he released his Sudarshan chakra and severed Shalva's head. So when Shalva died, there was the other friends of Shalva, was like led by Dantavakra. So he was there. So Dantavakra, then it was Dantavakra, he took up the mantle and he appeared on the battlefield and he challenged Krishna with a club. So then Krishna also took up his challenge and he came with his own club. There will be a club fight. So again, then Dantavakra insulted Krishna and struck Krishna on his head. He managed to struck Krishna on his head. Terrible blow. But then Krishna he didn't even move. And then it was Krishna started bludgeoning Dantavakra's chest. It's like he hit on his chest, which shattered his heart. It's like immediately he fell down dead. So then Dantavakra has another brother, Vidurath. So he charged on Krishna with his sword, but Krishna had enough of it. He again released his Sudarshan chakra and finished Vidurath. So that was this next chapter, which is chapter number 7. We are in chapter number 78 actually. Killing of Dantavakra, Vidurath, and Romaharsh. Now we'll have the part of Romaharsh Sutta. Krishna, after this battle, after Shalva's threat was over, Krishna visited Vrindavan for 2 months. So the detail will come a little later. But then on the same, on another, so this is like after that, after they visited Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram visited Vrindavan. So Lord Balaram, he heard that the Pandavas and Kauravas, they are gearing up for the battle of Kurukshetra basically. So Balaram could sense that that the war is inevitable. So he didn't wish to take any sides. He wanted to stay neutral. So he simply left Dwarka on the pretext of going on pilgrimage. So while he was traveling all over India, going to different places, finally after traveling to all the places, pilgrimage sites, he reached Naimisharanya. So when he reached Naimisharanya, all the sages, when they saw Balaram, they stood up, or they offered some sort of honor. But he saw that the Romaharshan Sutta, who was the speaker at that time, was sitting on the speaker's seat. He failed to stand in deference to him. He didn't show any respect to Balaram. In fact, he was actually staring at Balaram. So then Balaram got really angry, but this is offensive. That's the etiquette. The etiquette is if Krishna comes, or a representative Krishna, the spiritual master himself comes, then the disciple should get up from his seat to show him respect, even if he is speaking Bhagavatam. So, of course, like the spiritual master generally won't allow the disciple to stand and show disrespect to Bhagavatam. So that's the mutual, etiquette basically. So then anyway, so Balaram taught Romaharshan Sutta a lesson from the Trina Adapi Sunichena. Trina means blade of grass. So Kusha, Balaram used the blade of a Kusha to kill Romaharshan Sutta. So he got the lesson of the blade of the grass. But anyway, so then when this happened, the sages, they become very disturbed by what Balaram has done. And they said to him, so see, you have unknowingly killed a Brahmana. Therefore, even though you are above the Vedic injunctions, we request you to set a perfect example for the general population by atoning for your sin. Although you don't need to, but what kind of example will be set? So then you please set an example for the others. So then Balaram did 3 things to atone. First, he installed Romaharshan Sutta's son, Ugrashava Sutta, on the position of the speaker, which was going on at the time, the pravachan on the Puranas. And he also promised Ugrashava that you'll have a long life and unfailing, and your senses will never diminish. So you will, till the end of your life, all your senses will be fully functional and active. So that was to pacify the sages. Then he also wanted to do something more for the sages. So he asked, Lord Balaram asked them to like, what else can I do? I'm not satisfied. I want to do more. So the sages asked him that there is this demon named Balvala who is always tormenting us. He's not allowing us to perform our sacrifices. He's polluting the whole sacrificing arena. So you please kill him. Lord Balaram said, Tathastu. Okay, and on the sages' advice, he agreed to go on a year-long pilgrimage, all the holy places, so that as part of the atonement. So before he would go for the pilgrimage, it's time to take on this demon known Balwal. So then he was waiting, and he saw suddenly there was this harsh winds that began to blow on Naimisharanya, and specifically on the area nearby the arena where they would do the sacrifice. And it was Amavasya day, new moon, and there was this then bad stench of pus, and it's like, and everything was like obscured with dust. It was so dusty now because of this wind this Balwala was producing. So then after this was done, so then everything is in disarray. That is the time Balwala appeared to attack. So he had a big trident in his hand, pitch black, very frightening face, huge demon. So after a brief fight, Lord Balaram simply, with his two hands, with one hand he was holding a plow, and with another hand he was holding a club. With one hand he he fixed the plow on the neck of this demon, and he pulled him down to the ground. And with the other hand of the club, he smashed his head. You see, so very stylish, very stylish. Balaram is very stylish. So when thus he killed Balwala, and then after that he went on to the pilgrimage. But during the pilgrimage, when he heard of this news of the battle between, he knew that the battle, certainly there will be this war, but he reached in time. He tried to stop a duel between Bhima and Duryodhana, because both of them are very dear to Balaram. But he could not dissuade them from fighting, because there was so deep was their enmity, so that even Lord Balaram couldn't dissuade them. So that's the nature of enmity. So anyway, so after he finished the whole pilgrimage, he again went back to Naimisharanya. This is the second time Balaram went to Naimisharanya. This time, the sages performed a number of fire sacrifices for Balaram on his behalf. So then Lord Balaram reciprocated by giving them transcendental knowledge and also revealing them his eternal identity. Before that, many of the sages didn't know who Balaram actually is. They only know that he's the Prince of Dwarka. Some of them knew that Balaram is a transcendental personality, but who is actually Balaram, they didn't know. So he revealed that at that point of time. So because had he revealed his eternal identity to everyone in the first meeting, nobody would have dared to ask him to go to pilgrimage, do any service for them, like killing the demon. So then Balaram would have lost. How would Balaram have all the fun then? So Balaram was having a great time. So now coming to chapter number 80, there was this Brahmana Sudama, the friend of Krishna, who was a classmate of Krishna during his Gurukula days with Sandimuni's ashram in Avantipur, Ujjain. So Sudama, by his nature, was completely, he's a virakta, free of material desires. He was maintaining his wife, whatever came, like he was not going out to beg. Whatever would Krishna supply, he would just maintain his family. Therefore, they were very poor, very poor. They were so poor that one day Sudama's wife, she didn't had anything to cook. Then she had enough of it. She straight away went to his husband and she asked, why don't you visit your friend Krishna in Dwarka? Beg something from charity. You are a Brahmana can beg. You should go, you go to your friend and you beg charity. So Sudama, of course, he was reluctant, but then she was very persistent. So then ultimately he had to relent. So he agreed, and then he, in fact, Sudama thought that this might be an extremely auspicious opportunity to see Krishna, because seeing Krishna is extremely auspicious. So he kind of, okay, fine. He asked his wife. She kind of made preparation for a journey. And what was the preparation? She went out. She begged a handful of flattened rice, chipped rice, basically, as a gift for Krishna, that you are going to see Krishna. You should not go empty-handed. So that's all she could beg for. She gave that to Sudama, and then Sudama set off for Dwarka. So when Sudama approached the Dwarka palace, so Krishna was there with Rukmini, and then Krishna saw Sudama, immediately rose from his seat, and he embraced his friend. So then he brought Sudama. See, this might be very natural for us to embrace our friend, but it is not natural for a king to embrace a beggar. That's how people were seeing that. So they were like astonished to see this. And he brought Sudama into his own bedroom. No guest is allowed to come inside the harem of the palace, the royal harem. So he brought him inside his bedroom, and then he washed his feet with his own hands. It's not that he get it done from somebody else. He did that himself. And then he sprinkled the wash water on his head. So then he gave himself gifts. He also worshipped with incense, lamps, the Shodosh Upchar Puja. He offered him to so in the meantime, Rukmini was fanning this shabbily dressed Brahmana. So with whisk. So all of this, the palace residents, they were flabbergasted. What's going on? What's the king doing? What's the queen doing with this beggar like Brahmana? I couldn't figure out. So, but then Krishna was like totally oblivious to that. Krishna simply took the hand of his friend, and then the two, they were remembering about their Gurukula days, like all those days they spent together, the ashram of Sandipuni Muni. So in the course of their talk, Krishna said, my dear Sudama, you must have brought something as a gift for me from your home. So I regard very significant, the smallest offering from my loving devotee. So Krishna was like, he encouraged Sudama like that. But Sudama was so poor, he was very ashamed to present Krishna with this flat rice, this chipped rice. Like he's an emperor. What do I have to offer to him? But because Krishna knew that he bought this, because this super soul, he knows everything. So he knew why Sudama has come to visit him. He didn't come on his own accord, but he has been practically pushed by his wife due to the poverty. So Krishna grabbed that bundle of flat rice from Sudama. See, these things are very natural in Vrindavan, but these are not natural in Dwarka. You don't see Krishna breaking the protocol. So this was very unusual that he practically grabbed from Sudama that bundle of chipped rice, and then he started eating a handful. He ate one handful, and when he attempted to eat another handful, Rukmini stopped him. Rukmini stopped Krishna. Why? There are different commentaries. Shira Swami, he says that Rukmini meant to tell the Lord, see, you have eaten one morsel of this flat chip rice. That is enough to assure him of all the riches the Brahmana can get. But please don't eat the second morsel, because if you eat another morsel, then I myself have to surrender to this Brahmana. I will have to surrender myself. Rukmini said that I am Lakshmi. Lakshmi has to surrender to Brahmana. But what else can I give? When you ate the first morsel, I gave him everything. If you give another, so then if you eat another one, I will have to surrender myself to this Brahmana. Please don't do that. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti, he sees more to that. So because when Rukmini got hold of Krishna's hand, so she kind of also meant that she shared to Krishna that, as if she meant that, Krishna, if you eat all of it, what will we eat? So like all the co-wives, all your servants, myself, all of us, what would we eat? So don't eat all of it yourself. So please give something to us as well. We also want to taste this nectar. But to the maid servants who were observing all of that, what's going on? So because the maid servants might not understand that intimate dealing, for them, Rukmini said, actually, Rukmini gestured to them to mean that I stopped Krishna from eating this because this is a hard rice. It would upset my Lord's tender stomach. So then different, like different people seeing the positive from different angles. Sorry. So then Rukmini, she was so obliged to this devotee that she has to personally, Prabhupada says that Prabhupada says that you have to personally go to the devotee's home. So basically that means the Lakshmi automatically becomes a guest of one's house. If somebody serves Krishna, you become opulent. So that experience, Sudama felt that he has gone back to Godhead. So it was so transcendental for him that he is already in Goloka, in Vaikuntha. So he spent that night in Krishna's palace. He comfortably slept. Next day he set off for his home, and he was like on his way. He was thinking how fortunate he was, honored by Krishna, the dealings with Krishna. He was totally absorbed, and he couldn't even he lost all that sense that when he actually reached his home. But then when he regained his senses, he was struck with wonder that where is this he had this broken down, house. Instead, there was a opulent palace. In fact, a series of palaces, not just one palace, but series of palaces. So what's going on? He stood astonished. And then he saw, you could at least recognize his wife. But his wife was like wonderfully adorned with celestial jewelry. And here with this wife, she was like, and a poor Brahmana's wife. She's so opulently dressed. Even he saw other men, beautiful men, women, they were greeting him. They were singing and there was music. He never had any servants. So they all welcomed him with love and reverence. Sudama entered into that house with his wife, and he was thinking that this extraordinary transformation must have occurred due to Krishna. So he understood. So although he was living with this amidst this lavish lifestyle, Sudama was living with this wealth, but he from inside he was totally detached. He was constantly chanting the glories of Krishna. And in a very short time, he attained to the kingdom of God. So now, in chapter number 82, we are in chapter number 82. So Krishna and Balaram met the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So we are coming back to the 2 months, the months of Madhu Madhav. So Krishna, but before that, okay, this is another past. I'm sorry, I confused these two. So this is another time when Krishna and Balaram, they went to Kurukshetra from Dwarka. The whole entourage went to Kurukshetra. And then hearing that there was total eclipse, there's a Surya Grahan eclipse. So then they all came there. From this side, the Yadavas came, and from that side, the Brajavasis, they converged. And then the other kings, everyone from India, who's who, from the whole of the Bharatvarsha, they converged for this Surya Grahan at Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra, this is very auspicious place where Purushottam performed his tapasya. So, Dharmashetra. So when the Yadavas saw all these friends, they were so overjoyed. They all embraced each other. There were tears in their eyes, overjoyed after such a long time they were seeing each other. So even the woman Rohini, Devaki, they all embraced, each other. Yashoda, the Dwarka, the residents of Dwarka, they are embracing the residents of Braj. So and then they were friends. So and Rohini and Devaki, they took this opportunity. Devaki especially, she took that opportunity to thank Yashoda for raising his son Krishna and Balaram. And they said, I cannot repay you. I cannot repay you. Even if I had the wealth of Indra, I could not have repaid you. So this was happening. Then Kunti met his brother Vasudeva such a long time. So Kunti also, she also told that what she had undergone while they were in exile, and his brother apologized. He said that I couldn't help you out because Kamsa was after my life, so we were hiding. So all of these things happening. Somehow they were kind of separated. Both told their own story. Of course, in the meantime, Krishna took that opportunity to meet all the gopis in a secluded place. There, that's a huge. I mean, I can read the Goswamis, especially Rupa Goswami. He's describing that meeting. So he tried to at least console all the gopis led by Radharani, and he implied basically that they can never be separated from him. They are inseparable. So then at last, having united with Krishna, the gopis, they were satisfied. They simply prayed to Krishna to have his lotus feet manifested in their hearts. They didn't wanted anything else. So that's the spirit of the gopis, surrender of the gopis, highest. So while this happened, Draupadi took that opportunity to meet the queens of Krishna. So there was this Draupadi. She wanted to know how Krishna married all of them. She was very much intrigued. So then all the queens led by Rukmini, they told their story. Rukmini told that when Jarasandha was intent on giving me in marriage to Shishupal. So because that was Jarasandha's plan actually. Because to make this alliance stronger. So they all came to my wedding. They all stood with bows and arrows ready to support Shishupal against any opponent. But then Krishna came and forcefully took me away. So all the marriages of Krishna, that's we technically called Rakshasa marriage. Rakshasa marriage means when you kidnap the bride. So that's a Kshatriya marriage actually. Rakshasa marriage is the Kshatriya marriage. General marriages are called Brahma marriages, which is like a sober marriage as we know it. So then he took me away as the lion took his prey away from the goats and the sheep. So he practically overwhelmed everyone. And then similarly, Satyabhama, she spoke of her story that when her uncle was killed, Prasena was killed actually. So then Satrajit, he accused Krishna of the murder because of the story of the Shamantaka jewel. You must have done that, undergone that in the previous session, the whole story. So then Krishna, then he defeated Jambavan, he recovered the Shamantaka jewel, he returned it to Satrajit. Then Satyajit was so repentant that as an atonement, he presented Lord with Satyabhama and the jewel, both. So Shamantak jewel was the cause of 2 marriages. The next one is the marriage with Jambavati, because when Krishna entered Jambavan's cave in search of the Shamantaka jewel, then Jambavan had a fight with Krishna for 27 days and nights. Again 27 days and nights. So when Jambavan understood that finally that Krishna is his own Lord Ramachandra, so he also gave Krishna the Samantaka jewel along with Jambavati. Kalindi, which is Yamuna, an expansion of Yamuna. So she said that I always wished, I performed severe austerities to obtain Krishna as my husband. Then one day, actually Krishna came to me in the company of Arjuna. And at that time, the Lord agreed to marry me. So that's how Kalindi got married to Krishna. And Mitravinda, she narrated her story, how Krishna came to his Swayamvar ceremony and he defeated all the opposing kings and took me away to Dwarka. So see, chivalrous marriage. Then there's time for Satya, basically Nagnajiti, the king, the daughter of King Nagnajit. So his father, because that's what his father had this strange bet that for marrying off his daughter, that you have to fight 7 bulls together all at once. Krishna accepted. Nobody could do that before that. Krishna accepted. What is it for Krishna? But he accepted the challenge. Krishna actually expanded in his 7 forms. He fought the 7 bulls. He subdued the bulls. He didn't kill the bulls. See, the point is you cannot kill the bulls. You have to defeat the bulls. Why? Because if you're killing the bulls, that's Gohatya. So that's why nobody could do that. Killing is easy, but fighting and subduing, that's difficult. So then Krishna did that, and then he won he won the hand of Satya like that. But then Bhadra, Saiva Bhadra. Bhadra was another case when Bhadra was practically nephew of Krishna, Bua ki ladki, paternal aunt. So but Bhadra wanted to, she already gave his heart to Krishna. So she proposed, in fact, in a sense, to Krishna. So then Krishna accepted Bhadra. So yeah. So in the dowry, it was strange that in the dowry, Krishna was given an entire military division as dowry. Anyway, Lakshmana, followed by Lakshmana, which is the last of the 8 queens, prominent queens, Lakshmana. She told Draupadi her side of the story. How and she compared her marriage to the marriage of Draupadi, because in both Swayamvars there was the target was the same, as a similar target, fish target, fastened on the ceiling. And Lakshmana said, but in my case, the fish was concealed on all sides, and only its reflection could be seen in the pot of the water below. So in Draupadi's case, the fish was not concealed, but in this case, it was concealed also from all sides, only from the sides. So several kings, obviously they tried to field. Arjuna was also there. That's why she made that point, that even Arjuna was there and he made his attempt. He looked at the reflection and he took his aim, but when he released the arrow, it only grazed the target. It didn't hit the target in the middle, it grazed the target. Then Krishna fixed his arrow on the bow and it shot it through the target, knocked it on the ground. So in that sense, we can see Krishna is even a greater bowman than the famed Arjuna. So in the history of India, there was not, Bharatvarsha, Vedic India, there was not a greater bowman than Arjuna, but Krishna proved himself to be even more crafty than Arjuna. So then, she married Krishna, and certainly all the other kings, they felt insulted, they protested, but Krishna fought them. chopped the hands, legs, limbs of many of this opposing kings, and then everyone else fled. And then Krishna took Lakshmana to Dwarka for the lavish wedding reception. So now the rest of the 6,100 queens, remember, from who were released from the confinement of Jarasandha. So they were headed by a queen named Rohini. Of course, this Rohini is not the mother of Balram. There's another queen named Rohini, who is the head of all this 16,100 and queens. She represents them. So she explained how Krishna came to Prajyotishpur and he defeated Bhaumasur. And sorry, they were captives of Bhaumasur. They're not captives of Jarasandha. I'm sorry, captives of Bhaumasur. And then they were released. And then Krishna, they all surrendered to Krishna. And Krishna married all of them. So this was happening, and then all the Yadus the Yadus and the Vrishnis, they are all relaxing after the Kurukshetra eclipse was over. So in the meantime, the sages headed by Narad, they all arrived there. So all of them, all the kings, including headed by Krishna, Balaram, the Pandavas, everybody stood up, received the sages, and then Krishna started glorifying the sages. All our lives are now successful. Our lives are successful because we have audience of all these great sages. So then the famous verse is there where the water of the holy place of pilgrimage, it's like the Ganges water, and the deity forms can purify, even the deity forms can purify only after a long time. But saintly sages purify just by being seen. Paschade pavan, darshane pavitra karo, ei tumar gun. So that's Nanda Maharaj. In the meantime, she was so much in affection. I mean, he was so affectionate towards Krishna. He was so attached to Krishna that he couldn't leave, and he stayed at Kurukshetra for 3 more months. The Yadavas also stayed with Nanda Maharaj, and they served Nanda Maharaj. So it's all exchange of love. It's full of love. Then, of course, while this happened, and when the sages came and the sages glorified Krishna in front of Vasudev. So Vasudev was like struck with wonder, and Vasudev, he ceased to regard Krishna Balaram as his sons. He in fact fell down at the feet of Krishna and begged him to drive away the conception that the Lord was his son. He begged to Krishna that this is like, how can you be my son? You are the Supreme Lord. Instead, Krishna restored that conception and he instructed Vasudev that what is like this, excuse me, Hare Krishna, the science of Godhead. And then Vasudev finally became free of doubt. So Krishna didn't want to let go of the relationship. Then Mother Devaki, she praised Krishna Balaram, and when she praised Krishna Balaram, then Devaki was remembering her dead sons, 7 dead sons. And she said that I have heard that in the Gurukul of Sandipuni Muni, you brought back his dead son. Please fulfill my desire in the same way. Please bring back my sons who were killed by Kamsa. At least I can see them once, at least once. Even if they go back, at least let me see them once. So treated in this way by the mother, then Krishna Balaram, they went to Sutal Loka to fulfill the desire of Devaki. And in Sutal Loka, who stays in Sutal Loka? Bali Maharaj, his devotee. So Bali Maharaj was so happy. He hosted Krishna Balaram. And then Krishna Balaram requested Bali Maharaj to return Devaki's dead sons. They were in Sutal Loka. So the Lord, they received all the boys from Bali Maharaj and then returned to Dwarka and returned them to Devaki. Devaki was so overjoyed That's, although you can understand Devaki was now quite old, but in that calculation, but milk started flowing from Devaki's breast, and she fed all those children. That is, she was, because she couldn't even feed the children because they were taken away by Kamsa and killed. And because before she breastfed the 7 sons, she had done the same with Krishna Balram. So the milk which was coming from Devaki, it was actually prasadam, because touched by the lips of Krishna Balram. So when the 7 sons of Marichi, they drank that milk, they immediately regained their forms as the demigods, the Marichis, and they went back to heaven. And from there, later on, they will move to their respective spiritual abode. So this was the end of this story, this part. And okay, I can still continue if we still have got 5 chapters. And how long should we stretch? Manibhushan Prabhu, how long should we stretch?
Continue and we can finish it off, Prabhu.
Okay, I might take another 10 minutes. I think should not be more than 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. So then chapter number 86, this is a very interesting chapter, which is Arjuna kidnaps Subhadra. So, and then Krishna blesses his devotees, like you will see Bahulashva, Shrutadev. So Arjuna heard that while he was on his pilgrimage, Arjuna heard that Balram is intending to marry Subhadra off to Duryodhan. So Arjuna won't let that happen. So Arjuna wanted to kidnap Subhadra and marry himself. So Arjuna disguised himself as a monk, and he came to Dwarka, and he was so expertly disguised that nobody, because although everyone knew Arjuna very well in Dwarka, but to speak of anyone else, even Lord Balram couldn't recognize Arjuna. So rather, he accepted, he received them as the Vaishnava, as a sadhu, and for 4 months, Arjuna was there. So one day Arjuna was invited to dine at Balrama's palace, his home. So there, of course, he met Subhadra. They caught sight of each other, and they glanced at each other. Subhadra also, through her glance, she expressed the desire to marry Arjuna. So a few days later, after this incident passed, Subhadra left the palace to participate in a chariot festival, Rath Yatra basically. So taking this opportunity, Arjuna abducted Subhadra and defeated all the Yadavas who tried to stop them. So Lord Balram was very angry when he heard that Subhadra has been kidnapped by Arjuna. But when Lord Krishna and all the other family members finally pacified him, he became joyful. He sent the bride and the groom off with elaborate wedding gifts. Balram can be easily pleased. Balram is very easily pleased actually. So in the meantime, Krishna heard that there are some of his 2 of his devotees who are living in Mithila, again Bihar. So this Brahman knows Shrutadev. There was these 2 devotees. One was this Brahman named Shrutadev. Was very poor, hardly could keep his family and himself alive, keep the body and soul together. Generally, Brahmanas are poverty-stricken. Still, he was always satisfied, always engaged in his own dharma, his religious duties. And the king of Mithila, the Vaidehi king, coming from the Janaka kings, the father of Mother Sita, so Bahulashva. So he was also a great devotee of Krishna. So Krishna came to Mithila with Narad and other sages to see his devotees. Both Bahulashva and Shrutadeva, he stepped forward, and at the same time, together, they requested Krishna to visit their homes at the same time. So if both of them did the same time, they requested Krishna. So Krishna, in order to satisfy both of them, he expanded and went to each of their homes simultaneously. see. So they all worship Krishna suitably according to their means. Bahulashwar as a king worshiped Krishna according to his means. Shutadev being a poor Brahman according to his means, offered the prayers, washed his feet, sprinkled the bath water, wash water on the heads of the family members. So Krishna also instructed both the families on devotional service. So in this way, he satisfied his devotees. Then chapter number 87 is a praise by the personified Vedas. So I won't go into the details of this prayers. It's a very elaborate chapter in any ways. I'll move on to the next. In fact, this chapter number 88, where Lord, this is a very, very interesting pastime, very famous pastime in ISKCON also, especially. Lord Shiva saved from Vrikasur. So actually, Yudhishthir asked a question to Krishna that we see that Lord Vishnu possesses all the opulences. He's Shadaishwara Purna, his Lord. While Shiva, Lord Shiva, he lives in poverty. But it's strange that the devotees of Lord Vishnu always stay in poverty. Generally they are poverty stricken. Whereas the devotees of Lord Shiva, they are always abundantly, generally they are very wealthy. What is this mystery? So Lord Krishna replied, Yashaha Manugranami Harishya Tadhanam Shanai. Whenever I am compassionate towards my devotees, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Why? Because when he is poverty stricken, then his family, they will abandon him or her. So and excuse me, Krishna. So because nobody wants to stay with a poor man. But because of the attachment to his family, he will try everything possible to acquire wealth so that he can win back his family. But then I frustrate him so much that he becomes disgusted with this work and disgusted with his this whole attachment business, and he befriends my devotees. So at that time, I bestow him extraordinary mercy, extraordinary grace, so that he can become free from this bondage of material life and ultimately come back to home, back to Godhead. So that's why I do that. So anyway, so here another pastime, this demon named Vrikasur. So he once asked Narad Muni, was passing by, and he caught Narad Muni and he asked him which god was most quickly pleased. Quickly. So Narad could understand his intentions, because if you ask a question like that who can I please most quickly, that means you are not very serious, or your purpose might not be very serious. So Narad advised him, that is Lord Shiva. So Vrikasur went to Kedarnath and he started worshipping Shiva by offering pieces of his own flesh as oblation to the fire. But when Shiva didn't appear, so Vrikasur decided to commit suicide by cutting off his head, offering it in the fire. Just at the critical moment he was to do that, Lord Shiva appeared from the sacrificial fire and stopped him. And he asked him, what boon do you want? So Vrikasur said that may, whoever I touch upon the head with my hand, he may die. Lord Shiva said, Tathastu, fulfilled his request. And at once this wicked Vrikasur tried to test the benediction by putting his hand on Lord Shiva's head. Lord Shiva was terrified. He started running for his life. So, and he went to heaven. He even went to the outer limits of the this material world. Finally, Lord Shiva reached Shvetadev, the residence of Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So, seeing Lord Shiva so desperate, Lord Vishnu, he immediately disguised himself as a young student and he went before Vrikasur. So he very sweetly he asked Vrikasur, my dear Vrikasur, why are you so in a hurry, doing this in a hustle bustle? Please take a rest and tell us what is it you want, if I can help you. So then Vikasura was so charmed by this young Brahmana boy. Is actually Krishna. Vishnu, so then he revealed everything to him. So honestly, he revealed everything. So Vishnu replied, okay, see, actually Lord Shiva, ever since he has been cursed by Prajapati Daksha, after his wife died, Sati died, so he has become he's like a ghost. He's become a madman. You should not trust his words. So you better test his benediction by putting your hand on own head. So he bewildered Vikasa so much, Lord Vishnu. So he totally got bewildered, and that foolish demon, he touched his own head, he immediately shattered his head and he fell down dead. And it said in that way, Lord Vishnu, quote unquote, saved Lord Shiva. Okay. So there's another pastime where there was this discussion between the sages on the banks of river Saraswati. So who amongst these three, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, is the greatest? So Bhrigu Muni was deputed to investigate and come up with the conclusion. So Bhrigu Muni, he decided to test the Lord's tolerance. He decided to test the tolerance of all three. So, but because he deduced that would be the sure sign of greatness. Who is more tolerant? So he went to see Lord Brahma, and he went to see Brahma. He didn't offer him any obeisances, although he is his father. So Brahma was very angry, but somehow he suppressed his anger because Bhrigu was his son. But that didn't escape Bhrigu's eyes. He noticed that. So next Bhrigu went to Shiva, who is his brother, his elder brother. He rose, Shiva, when he saw Bhrigu, he rose from his seat to embrace him, but Bhrigu rejected that embrace. He called Shiva that you are dirty, you are deviant, heretic, you don't follow any Vedic principles. So Shiva was so angry that he was about to kill Bhrigu with his trident. But but Devi Parvati, she intervened, and she pacified her husband that he's her brother. What are you doing? So somehow she stopped him. So then finally Bhrigu went to Vaikuntha to test Narayan. So he went to Lord Narayan, who was lying at the time. His head was on the lap of Lakshmi. So Bhrigu straight away went up to him and kicked his chest. But instead of becoming angry, both Lakshmi and Narayan, they stood up and they offered Bhrigu respect. The Brahman is to be respected. So Lord Narayan, he welcomed Bhrigu. He said, please sit down and rest a while. Kindly forgive us, for we have not noticed your arrival. So forgive us for that. So when this happened, Bhrigu went back, he concluded, and he said to the assembly of sages, and he narrated all the incidences, and he concluded the Lord Vishnu is certainly supreme, is most tolerant. So on the other hand, while this was happening, there's this on the other hand, the Dwarka, the city of Dwarka itself, there was this Brahmana whose wife gave birth to a son who immediately died. The Brahmana was so enraged, so he took the dead son to the court of King Ugrasen, and he criticized the king. He said, this greedy, you are duplicitous, you are greedy, you are enemy of the Brahmanas. That's because you do not execute your duties properly. That is the cause of my son's death. Otherwise, nobody should die before his time. The son should not be dying before the father, usually. And the same thing happened, and each time this happened, he would do this. He would bring the infant body to the royal court and behead the king. This happened 9 times. When the 9th time, Arjuna was there. He happened to be there. So he said that I will protect your progeny. Arjuna promised the Brahmana, and if I fail, I will enter the fire. So to atone for my sin, because only if I am sinful will I fail. So, but sometime later, the Brahmana's wife was again pregnant for the 10th time. So when Arjuna learned of this, he went to the maternity house and he enveloped the whole maternity house with a protective cage of arrows. He put a cage of arrows so that nothing can come in and attack. But Arjuna's efforts of no avail. As soon as the child was born, began to cry, it disappeared into the sky. So now the Brahmanas derided Arjuna profusely. So the Arjuna set off for the abode of Yamaraj. If he has died, he must have gone to Yamaraj's abode. So he went up to Yamaraj's abode. He searched everywhere, but he couldn't find the Brahmana's son there. He in fact searched all the 14 worlds. He couldn't find the infant. So having failed to protect the Brahmana, Arjuna was now, he prepared to commit suicide by entering into the fire. So just about he was about to do so, Krishna came and stopped him. He said, okay, I'll show you where the Brahmana's sons are. So you don't do things like that. You come with me. So then both of them rode a chariot. That was the chant called Krishna's transcendental chariot. It was not Arjuna's chariot, Krishna's chariot. And then two of them, they passed over all the universal islands, 7 oceans. They passed over the Lokalok mountains. Beyond that, there is no sunrise. Sorry, there's the sunlight. There was dense darkness. So then Krishna sent his Sudarshan Chakra ahead to pierce the darkness, to shine the way. So then they followed the light, Sudarshan Chakra, and they gradually came to the Kaushalya Ocean, Karan Sagar. So where they could see, and then entered into the Kaushalya Ocean, they found the city of Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu. So then they met Lord Mahavishnu. So when Krishna and Arjuna came, Lord Mahavishnu greeted them. He said, I brought the Brahmana's sons here simply because I wanted to see the two of you. So please, please continue to your Leela, and you also set the example as forms of Nar-Narayan Rishi. They are also Nar-Narayan Rishis. So he was extremely joyful to see. He wanted to have darshan of Krishna and Arjuna. So then he returned the Brahmana's boys, and then they came back to Dwarka. He returned the infants to their father. So this is, so with this, we come to the concluding chapter, which is the summary of Krishna's glories. In this chapter, you can briefly read about how Krishna has enjoyed with his queens the lakes of Dwarka, and how the queens were praying to Lord Krishna in the mood of intense separation. So this is basically the end of this chapter. Krishna, there is also a description of how Krishna begot his sons, 10 sons in each wife of each queen, and then how Aniruddha married Rukmi's granddaughter, and who begot Vraja, the famous Vajranav, who was the king of Mathura, and who kind of revived Mathura. So he was the only Yadu prince to survive the battle in Prabhash, and the Yadus died in the intestine warfare. And from there, he expanded the Yadu dynasty. And with that, we come to the end of 10th canto. So now you will have the 11th canto maybe in the next session. I thank you for bearing with me, and I know I am quite over time. I apologize for that. However, it was nice for me having had this opportunity. It was a challenge also to cover 20 chapters. I thank all of you for your participation.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We are very sorry to give you more chapters, especially 70 to 90 chapters. It was very difficult, So
it was interesting. It was fun. It was challenging.
We are trying to complete all the whole Bhagavatam in 1 month. Because of that scamming. Sorry.
Yes. I heard that. No, that's not sorry. That's a cause of celebration. Why sorry? It's cause of celebration. That's an interesting idea.
very, very happy to hear from you the wonderful pastimes of Lord Krishna. We are so blessed. Thank you very much. Prabhuji, if anybody is having any questions, 1 or 2 questions can we take?
I don't mind, but do they have that appetite?
And already you are 11 now. So anybody
That's what I'm
has any
saying.
comments? Any comments or any questions?
Yeah,
You can-
that's comments. Welcome.
Yeah, please.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. It was
Hare
nice.
Krishna.
Very, very enthusiastically you gave the narration of the 20 chapters. It was very nice. And I like this, Prabhuji, where you had mentioned when Romaharsha failed to, show the due respect to Lord Balram. Balram, he gave lesson to the same, using the same straw, he killed him. It was very nice. I've heard this before, but I couldn't connect this Trinadapi and this humility together. How you use the same thing to remind him you were not humble. It was very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Bimala Prasad, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. No?
As told by Mataji, you explained a lot of enthusiasm and interest that encouraged us. It was very much enlivening. Prabhuji, regarding the fight between Bhima and Duryodhana, other than the enmity, Bhima had his promise also to kill.
Yeah, that's the enmity.
Yes, and even Duryodhana was cursed by Maitreya, that once Maitreya Muni advised Duryodhana to come to right track, then he laughed by beating his thighs. Ha ha ha. So then Maitreya Muni told, the same thigh one which you are beating with your hand and humiliating me will be broken.
Yeah, the whole thank you for bringing that up. Actually, thank you for bringing that up. Actually, I just wanted to add to this comment. See, whenever unfortunate things like this happen, this doesn't cause by just one incident. It is like repeated warning by Krishna. Krishna, through these various incidents, repeatedly warn you to change course. Once if somebody is adamant, is like because due to false pride, then he will meet his fate. So you will see in most of these scenarios, you will see it's not just that one cause. There are several causes attached to it, which makes it so like damned. The person is ultimately damned. So it's Krishna is not unfair that he just warned you once and you failed to heed to that warning, you missed it, and you will be immediately brought to book. Krishna is not a sadist.
Yes, Prabhuji, lot of mercy is being bestowed. Lot of chances are given.
Krishna is not a sadist. See, had it been just one incident, so somebody can level an allegation that God is not generous enough. But the Krishna is generous, so then he always gives the jiva more than one opportunity. In fact, many opportunities. But when the jiva is hell bent on that, so then you will have it.
Yes, Prabhuji, even Shishpala was given 100 chances.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody, you see any character, else you will see they have got more than one chance. But when we won't simply heed to it, so then who can stop the inevitable? Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'm throwing more light on it and make it more clear. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So with that, I think we bring this program to an end. Manibhushan Prabhu, what do you think?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much. Kanaganga Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji, can you give a vote of thanks to Prabhuji?
Thank you.
Thank
It's my
you so
good
much.
fortune. And maybe it is an opportunity comes to me when I can hear from you. That would be an equal reciprocation.
Thank you so much, Manibhushan Prabhuji, for giving me this opportunity to glorify my own Siksha Guru, because His Grace Bimala Prasad Prabhuji is like my Siksha Guru in terms of deity worship. Whatever I have learned, it's because of Prabhuji's. I have learned everything. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. We welcome you and Kanhaiya Desh Yatra. You have.
Allow me to interdict. I'm not anyone's Siksha Guru. I'm a teacher, so I can always see that's my service. Thank you, Kanakanga Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We welcome you because you have glorified in such a nice way the whole Bhagavatam, this 20 chapters, and all the devotees we really liked it, and it was very interesting that the flow that keep go on, but the time we are restricted with the time, so we cannot go. Couldn't go beyond the time, so we welcome you, Prabhuji. We're chanting 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and we are really blessed that we got your association, and we pray to Krishna that in future also we will get your association more and more, so that we can hear you more. So we'll chant 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and we'll thank Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Rama,
Ram,
Ram Ram,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Rama,
Ram,
Ram
Hare.
Ram, Hare.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so
We'll do
much.
Vaishnava pranams. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Krishna,
kripa
Krishna
sindhubhya eva cha patitanam
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo
namo
namo.
Namo Namo.
Hare Krishna.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की
Jai
जय,
Shri
नमाचार्य हिलास्तार को की जय,
Srimad
सत्यनाथ के
Bhagavatam
गुरु
ki jai,
महाराज की जय,
Jai.
Jai.
Mass ki
की जय,
jai.
की
Jai.
जय।
His
His
Grace
Grace विमल
Vimal
प्रसाद
Prasad
प्रभु
Prabhu
की
ki jai. Hare
जय।
Krishna. Thank you very much, all devotees, for your association. And we will be continuing the 11th canto tomorrow by His Grace Govardhana Giri Das Prabhuji. So please don't miss it. Tomorrow 7 p.m. I will welcome you all again for this 11th canto. Now we will proceed with the Arati and Sadanand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Manibhushan Prabhuji, can you spotlight us also, because we are
Yeah,
also
you
offering
can
light.
switch on your videos. You can switch on your videos. We will keep you in spotlight. Okay. Then second, third, who is Proji? Hare Krishna, Kanaganga Prabhu, Sandhya Mukesh. Then,
Yes.
then anybody else? Only 2 or 3?
Yeah, 2 Prabhu. Only 2.
2. Okay. Done.
व्रजे प्रसिद्धं नवनीतचौरं गोपाङ्गनानां चतुकुलचौरम् व्रजे प्रसिद्धं नवनीतचौरं गोपाङ्गनानां चतुकुलचौरम् अनेकजन्मार्जितपापचौरम् चौराग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि अनेकजन्मार्जितपापचौरं चौराग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि श्रीराधिकाय हृदयस्य चौरं नवम्बुधश्यामलकान्तिचौरम् श्रीराधिकाय हृदयस्य चौरम् नवम्बुधश्यामलकान्तिचौरम् पदश्रितानां च समस्तचौरम् चौराग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि पदश्रितानां च समस्तचौरम् चौराग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि अभिजनीकृत्य पादाश्रितं या करोति भिक्षुं पदिहेरहीनम् अभिजनीकृत्य पादाश्रितं या करोति भिक्षुं पदिहेरहीनम् केनापि आहो भीषणचौरिन्द्री दृष्टा सुतो वा न जगत्त्रयेऽपि केनापि हो भीषणचौरिन्द्री दृष्टा यदीयनाभाविहारण्यशेषम् गिरितसेरेणभिपावराशिम् यदीयनाभाविहारण्यशेषम् दृष्टाश्रुतो वा न माया कदापि अनं च मानं च तदेन्द्रियाणि प्राणं च कृत्वा मम सर्वमेव पारायसे कुत्र धृदोद्य चौर तुम भक्तिदं नाशि माया निरुद्ध नास्ति घोरं यम पाशबन्धं विनास्ति धीमं भव पाशबन्धं विनास्ति घोरं यम नास्ति सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं नैवत्मनो भक्तकृतं तु बन्धम्
सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं नैवात्मनो भक्तकृतं तु बन्धम्
मनसे तमसा राशिघोरे हरगृहे दुःखमये निबद्धा मानसे तावस्य हे चौर हरे चिराय स्वचौर दोषोचिदं एव दण्डम्
चौरहारे चिराय स्वचौर्य दोषोचितमेव दण्डम्
प्रसिद्धं नवनीत चौरम् गोपाङ्गनानां चतुकुलचौरम् कारागृहे वास सदा हृदये मदीये बंधन निश्चल सन् कृष्ण हे प्रलय कोटि सदांधरे कृष्ण हे प्रलय कोटि सदांधरे सर्वस्य चौर हृदय न हि मोचयामि हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupada, Brahma Prasad, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Vishnupada, Brahma Prasad, Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nanda Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Vedanta ki Jai. Prince Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gaura Gopal Sham Kundra Thakur Vidya ki Jai. Vrindavan Tham ki Jai. Madras Tham ki Jai. Dwarka Tham ki Jai. Ayodhya Tham ki Jai. Mayapur Tham ki Jai. Jagannathpuri Tham ki Jai. Gangamai ki Jai. Yamunamai ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Tulsi Devi ki Jai. Grandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Kaliyuga Dhamma Hare Krishna ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Purushottam Sadhmas ki Jai. Saurashtra ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitya Gaur Premanande. Hare Bol. All those who support devotee. Hare Krishna. All those who support devotee. Hare Krishna. All those who support devotee. Hare Krishna. All those who Bhagwan. All those who Srila Prabhupada. All those who Maharaj. Nitya Gaur Premanande. Hare Bol. गोवर्धनधरं वन्दे गोपालं गोपरूपिणं गोकुलस्वामीशानां गोविन्दं गोपिकाप्रियं गोवर्धनधरं वन्दे गोपालं गोपरूपिणं गोकुलस्वामीशानां गोविन्दं गोपिकाप्रियं गोवर्धनधरं वन्दे गोपालं गोपरूपिणं गोकुलस्वामीशानां गोविन्दं गोपिकाप्रियं वन्दे नवघनश्यामं निभुजं मुरलीधरं पीताम्बरधरं देवं शारदं पुरुषोत्तमं वन्दे नवघनश्यामं निभुजं मुरलीधरं पीताम्बरधरं देवं शारदं पुरुषोत्तमं वन्दे नवघनश्यामं निभुजं मुरलीधरं पीताम्बरधरं देवं शारदं पुरुषोत्तमं भगवानुवाच अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् यस्य पर्णानि वेद स वेदवित् अधश्चोक्तं प्रसादस्य शाखा न प्रवृद्धा विषयप्रवालः मूलानि अनुसन्ददानि मनुष्यलोके रूपमस्ते ततोपलिप्यते नानचार्दिन्यशतं प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् दृढेन चित्वा मार्गद्रव्यम् निवर्तन्ति भूयः चादिं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये पुराणी मोहाजित संगदोषा नित्या विनिवृत्त कामाः विमुक्ता सुख दुःख संजय पदमव्ययं आश्रयदे सूर्यो न निवर्तन्ते तद्धामा परमं मम ममेवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूता सनातनः मनःषष्ठानि इन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च व्यसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायम् विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि कुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः यदन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्तमन्यवस्थितं यदन्तो प्रकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्य चेतसः यदादित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भासेतेऽखिलम् यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकम् रामाविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्याहमोजसा उष्णामि चौषधी सर्वा सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रितः प्राणापानसमायुक्तः पचाम्यन्नं चतुर्विधम् सन्निविष्टो मत्वात्मज्ञानमोहनं च वेदेषु सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेह चाहम् दाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके शरश्चर एव च शर सर्वाणि भूतानि कूढस्थोऽक्षर उच्यते उत्तमः पुरुषस्तन्य परमात्मेत्युदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य विवर्तव्य ईश्वरः यस्माक्षरमधीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अदोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च कृतिका पुरुषोत्तमः यो मामेव सम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमम् स सर्वविदः सर्वभावेन भारत इति मुख्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदमुक्तं मया नघ एतद्बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे पुरुषोत्तमयोगः हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Roji, you can proceed with the vote of thanks.
Thank you. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंद गोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः नमो पंकजनाभाय नमो पंकजमालिने नमो पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रये. So in Kunti Stuti, here says that Sarvanti Gayanti Grananti Abhikshanti Smaranti Nandanti Swadikam Janaha Te Eva Pashyanti Ajirena Tattvam Bhava Prabhavo Paramam Padambujam. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. So here today is the 26th day of the Purushottam month. So today we are glorifying the Supreme Lord in Abbasya. Mukesh Prabhu and Santya Mataji and Manasi and Manavi, right? Manav. And Farvania, His Grace Kanakanga Chaitanya Prabhu and Nagendra Prabhu, Hanumanta Prabhu, Girish Prabhu, Karthik Prabhu and Venkatesh Prabhu. They are the roommates. So we are chanting for their spiritual progress, and those who are present here also we are chanting the Supreme Lord for their spiritual progress in following in all these their following days. So we are glorifying the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna mantra 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranams, all assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So, tomorrow we will be continuing the Srimad Bhagavatam class. We will be covering chapter 11, Canto 11, chapter 1 to 15 chapters. And we'll have His Grace Govardhana Giridas Prabhuji with us. So please join at 7 p.m. followed by Arati and Srimad Bhagavad Gita class. So another 3 more days we will be having this Purushottam and Adhika Masas festival. So please utilize this opportunity and thank you one and all for
Which
your
is Saturday will be the last day, right?
Yeah, Saturday will be the last day. We will be covering 12th canto.
Okay.
Okay. So we will do Vaishnava Pranam, Vancha Kalpadayubhyascha, Kripasimhaivaivacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Gita ki jai, Purushottam Adhikamas ki jai, Sri Chaurashtakam ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande, the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Manibhushan Prabhu, thank you for wonderfully coordinating and giving us an opportunity. Thank you, Sadananda Prabhu, for conducting. His Grace Manibhushan Prabhu ki jai. His Grace Sadananda Prabhu ki jai. All glories assembled devotees here. All glories to Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thy Gaur Pramanande. Hari Hari Bol.